Hello, all you Patim Far experiencers out there, and welcome to Undeclared Bajor.
Gotta get me one of those experiences.
Oh, yeah. My name is Fletcher. About to say hello is Data.
Hey!
Today we're going to recap and discuss Star Trek DS9, Season 5, Episode 10, Rapture. Alternate title, Gone Vision.
Oh, okay, it took me a second. Okay.
How about this? How about, Keep Your Eye on the Bahala.
Okay. Interesting, alright.
Anyway, just in case this is your first time watching Star Trek DS9, we will attempt to only discuss spoilers up through this episode, but no promises. Proceed at your own risk. Rapture originally aired December 30th, 1996. So it's the New Year's episode.
Ooh, yeah, I didn't even think about that.
It was written by Hans Beimler, story by L.J. Strom, and directed by Jonathan West.
Good old L.J. Strom.
That's a real sounding name.
No, not fake at all. Okay, let's see. Let's check out L.J. Strom and see what he's up, or she is.
Yeah.
L.J. Strom created the story for Star Trek Deep Space Nine 5th season episode Rapture. This is their only known film credit.
Okay.
And this is sounding more and more like pseudonymish by the moment.
I'm suspicious.
Yep, nothing else on IMDb, just that.
Gotta do some anagramming later.
I mean, it's not like that's that many letters.
Yeah, there's only one vowel, so...
Morst.
Storm LJ. I don't know. And Cirroc Lofton is in this episode.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Pretty good Cirroc Lofton appearance. So, Sisko, Dax, and Kira sit around an ancient Bajoran painting recently returned to Bajor by the Cardassians. They're just giving the stuff back, like, piecemeal. It's like, it's a little trickle of giving stuff back.
Somebody else was having a garage sale and clearing out their garage, and they're like, oh man, another Bajoran artifact.
The Bajorans probably want this. Anyway, the painting depicts the ancient Bajoran city of Bahala. Kira and Sisko are entranced, but Dax is unimpressed, saying, I thought it would be bigger.
Seen one ancient painting of an ancient lost city, seen them all.
Yep. Sisko points out a monument in the center of the painting, whose markings would reveal the location of the long-lost city if only they could see the markings on the back. I guess those distinctive mountains in the background are no help.
No, it's been thousands of years. Those mountains are probably gone somehow. As mountains tend to do.
Yeah. Mountains don't live very long, I don't think.
Yeah, exactly.
Dax sees the obvious reflection of the monument in the waterfall, but doesn't bring it up because she wants the conversation about the painting to be over. Kira reveals that according to prophecy, only one touched by the prophets can find Bahala. And you know who's been touched by the prophets? Grand Nagus Zek.
Yes, that's true. They should get him in here.
And Quark.
Yeah, to a slightly lesser extent, I feel like.
I mean, he at least saw them. I don't know if they touched him, but... Later, Sisko looks at a digital image of the painting and does a little zoom and enhance, discovering the reflection in the waterfall feature that seems to be only there for that reflection.
Right? Yeah, it's like, if somebody painted this, they went to a lot of trouble to, like, paint the reflection on there, but make sure that it was, like, wiggly, because in the waterfall it would be wiggly or whatever,
They had a vision from the prophets, and they knew that someday the city would be lost. And they better put this little bit of information in the painting.
Yep.
But he takes the image to the holosuite and attempts a 3D recreation, but the symbols on the back of the monument are still a little too fuzzy. Quark comes in to kick the captain out of the holosuite as it is 3 a.m. Sisko asks Quark to save the file for him, But Quark gets distracted trying to sell him on his large selection of erotic mazes.
It's just erotic everything that this guy has. And this isn't Vulcan Love Slave now. This is erotic mazes.
He has a whole selection of erotic mazes.
Yeah. Not one, not two, but a whole selection.
This is a whole genre of holosuite program.
Yeah. It's like, there's a prize at the center of each one.
And I remember, this reminds me of one time I was in Berlin, and my hotel was right next door to an establishment. I believe the establishment was called, Labyrinth, and it advertised itself as Berlin's original erotic maze.
Oh. I bet I know where they got the idea.
Or it was like the first erotic maze, or something like that. And I was like, wow, is this a whole thing? And this one place started the whole trend? But I did not go in there.
Irish Stephen Bear was visiting that place, and this episode came
right.
Up. It's like, hey, we need to get that in there.
He was like, oh my gosh, I just came back from Germany. I saw the most amazing thing. I want to write an episode about it. It's like, how about instead of that, we do a Sisko emissary story? Okay. Anyway, Sisko gets impatient with this whole erotic maze thing, and he just goes to hit Control-S himself. But something goes horribly wrong, and the captain gets a big shock.
And maybe you should have just been computer save program or whatever, because
right?
People do that all the time.
Yeah, which is the normal way stuff gets saved. We've seen it 1,000 times, but whatever. Odo arrests Quark for negligence. And that is never revisited or mentioned again.
Quark's just in jail from now on.
Right.
Do we see Quark again? Probably not. He's in jail.
This is, as I'm sure you'll get to, the last appearance of Quark in the series. So.
Oh, we do see him later at the party at the bar.
Oh, yeah.
Ah, well.
Well, he's out on bail awaiting his trial.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
In the infirmary, perfectly normal Dr. Bashir diagnoses the captain with post-shock syndrome or something like that, and informs him that colors and sounds and stuff are going to be more vibrant for a while. Then Jake cooks his dad a nice dinner of Linkta roast.
Yep.
So, remember, that's the animal from wherever Grilka is from.
Yeah, you have to bring in the whole leg or whatever and throw it on the table.
But apparently, in the hands of Jake, it turns into a tasty roast.
Say wherever Grilka is from, as if she wasn't from the Klingon homeworld and we've seen her home there before.
Well, but she's from a region.
Oh, okay, the province or okay, yeah.
Like a specific region where that animal is, part of the mating tradition or whatever.
Fair.
Anyway, Jake talks up the upcoming return of Cassidy from prison. But Ben is too distracted going full-on close encounters with his vegetables, recreating the symbols on the Bahala obelisk.
I like that there was a legit note in here that I deleted because I didn't care, where it's like, this was an homage to this movie. I'm like, yeah, I know.
Right.
It's super obvious.
I mean, this is one of those things I feel like really straddles that line between homage and ripoff. Sisko goes back to work on his holo recreation, and then gets a call from Admiral Whatley. It's good news! Bajor is finally clear to join the Federation. And the Bajorans requested the signing ceremony take place on Deep Space Nine. This is apparently all news to the captain, so I guess he's just really been focused on his Bahala project while all this has been going on.
Yeah, I feel like that this would have been one of those things that you would know was coming up for a vote or something. It's kind of it's relevant to your job. Given that, Picard told him his entire job here was get them ready to join the Federation. Do anything it takes.
Yeah, you think he'd be following the situation really closely. Unless it's just this all happens behind closed doors and just out of nowhere they announce, it's like the Nobel Prizes or something. They just kind of announce it. And Admiral Whatley is not wearing the brand new uniforms.
No, none of the admirals were.
So, interesting. So did Deep Space Nine get these uniforms first? just like the other uniforms, or
I don't. Maybe the Admiral uniforms only come out like after they've gotten all the normal people new uniforms, and the Admirals are like, okay, yeah, we like those. We'll change now.
Who knows? Also, some of Admiral Watley's line deliveries in this scene were a little iffy.
A little weird. Yeah.
It was like, you better get that big bicycle wheel ready, because we're coming to Bajor. I was like, uh-huh. So, a crowd gathers in Quark's to celebrate the historic news. Quark accidentally displays the Welcome Klingon Overlords banner, but it doesn't kill the mood.
No, everybody's too happy.
Yep. Quark is thrilled at the prospect of quintuple root beer sales and consequent opportunities to extract profitable intelligence from drunken patrons. But Worf quickly identifies a flaw in that plan.
Yep, it's true. Unless he makes alcoholic root beer.
Yeah.
No one's ever thought of that.
Yep. What's the not your dad's root beer? What's that hard root beer called?
I didn't even know that was a thing, honestly. I would have thought that hard root beer was just beer. Let's see. Hard root beer, not your father's root beer.
Oh, yeah.
Or Crazy Uncle hard root beer for grown-ups.
That's the same brand?
No.
Oh, those are two different brands? Okay.
Yeah. Then there's Coney Island hard root, Crazy Uncle root beer, which I guess is not the hard. Oh no, it says hard on the whatever. Sprecher hard root beer.
Ooh.
And Best Damn root beer. Sorry, I googled hard root beer, and these are the things that came up.
Is there a hard Sioux City sarsaparilla?
Not that I noticed. I do like. I just don't know how this is going to work out for Quark. When Bajor joins the Federation, do they have to get rid of money because the Federation doesn't use money? So how's he going to make any money? I don't.
This is a good point, but I mean, I guess I don't know if there's any laws preventing you from opening a business. And, the thing he would ultimately be selling is his services. So, it's not like, he's withholding resources or something.
Right.
That they could just as easily get at the replicator. Which they could just get the root beer from the replicator now, so.
Also true. I hadn't really...
I mean, you go to Quark's for, the gamble. I don't know how his gambling is going to work out when they're in the Federation.
That's true,
that
too.
might be a problem. Because I think that has been explicitly said to be against Federation law or something. But so even Kira finds herself surprised to be excited for the news. She gives the emissary credit for bringing her around.
Yep.
But where is the captain? Kira finds him in the holosuite, staring at his 1/4 scale obelisk.
Super creepily.
She shakes him out of it, and he says he was having a vision of Bahala, and for a moment all cosmic mysteries were revealed to him, until Kira interrupted him.
He's very, jovial about it, though.
He's, no big deal, all the secrets of the universe were mine until you interrupted it, but that's an opportunity I'm sure comes around again, so.
Yeah, all the time, probably.
Then news comes in that Kai Wynn has arrived on the station, and Sisko sends Kira to deal with her. Kira meets the Kai at the airlock, and the Kai immediately starts in on her usual bullshit.
It's true.
It's like Kai Wynn mode is fully on right from the beginning. As Sisko studies the monument, the holosuite door opens, and Cassidy steps in. Sisko is perfectly pleased to see her. Hey, I just figured out where Bahala is, he says. You want to come find it with me?
It's a weird, what do you call it? It's a weird comparison with what we saw earlier when Jake brings up Cassidy, and he's like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to feel about that. And then instantly he's like, kiss, without a word.
Uh-huh.
So I was like, did the cheerful, vision make you more cool about what happened with her, or were you just downplaying to Jake how much you were looking forward to seeing her?
Could be. Either way, I don't know. But should a Bajoran be president for this culturally important discovery? Apparently not.
Nah. Why bother? That's what I say.
So Ben and Cassidy fly to Bajor, where we watch them blaze a trail through primitive alien jungle, anticipation building until they reach a scenic ridge and see sprawling magnificently in the valley below the grand ruins of the sacred city, unseen for millennia.
I don't think that would work. You can't have like a out in the open ruins in like space age time because they would find them.
Nah. They just, they didn't know where to point their satellites. No, actually, they just beamed into the cave set. But the result is the same. They find the ruins, or at least the obelisk. Captain Sisko's having some headaches, though.
Which he was explicitly supposed to tell Bashir about and does not. He's just like, oh yeah, Bashir said I might get some headaches. Like, no, what he said is, come and tell me if you get some headaches. Like, that's not good.
Back on the station, Odo and Worf bicker about where to house all the visiting dignitaries. Like, is Captain Rifkin not showing up in his own starship? But, that's a different question. Kira is too distracted thinking about the discovery of Bahala and lauds it as a sign from the prophets. Odo is dismissive, but Worf is in a spiritual mood this episode, and backs her.
Yeah, he's a spiritual guy.
Yeah.
I mean, just because the Klingons killed their gods doesn't mean that he doesn't respect other gods.
All right. Kai Wynn pulls Kira away for a chat where she reveals that up until this point, she didn't really believe Sisko was the emissary, but this latest discovery has made it pretty hard to deny.
I'm shocked. Shocked. Well, not that shocked.
For only one touched by the prophets can find Bahala. Kira praises Wynn for having the courage to admit she was wrong, but this apparently touches some kind of nerve, because it sends Wynn on an unprovoked rant about how the Resistance people think they're so great for all the brave things they did with their guns, but meanwhile she was in prison taking beatings with no way to defend herself. And Kira's like, dude, that's not what I was going for, but then Kai Wynn storms off.
It was so weird that it's just like, oh, you know what? That's cool. I really respect you for that. It's like, well, screw you then.
I got beat in the occupation. So, down at the ruins, Admiral what's-his-name shows up to congratulate Sisko on his discovery, but is a little concerned when Ben insists that it really did come to him in a vision. Even more so when the captain insists on staying to watch the excavation, sure that he's right on the verge of some great revelation.
To be fair, the Admiral...
And also when Sisko has more headaches.
Oh yeah. The Admiral did apparently try to call him several times and was ignored, which you don't do to your boss. So
yeah, it's not a good thing to do to the Admiral. The Admiral has Sisko show up to Dr. Bashir for a checkup. On his way to the infirmary, a crowd gathers around the emissary, and he doles out supernaturally insightful personal advice. Like, he tells one random guy, he doesn't belong here, go home. And the guy just leaves.
Yeah, so apparently that guy shows back up in some of the novels as a Vedic. So he goes and, I guess, joins the clergy.
So that was his calling to follow the prophets or something?
Is, Vedic Yavir Linjarin.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Interesting. And then Sisko even tells the Admiral that his son forgives him. Which, he's like, he forgives me for sleeping with his girlfriend?
And I like the Admiral turns to someone who's like, how did he know me and my son weren't getting along? Which, why wouldn't you ask him?
It's like, well, because I got a call from him and he told me the whole story, but then he said that he forgives you.
Yeah. He's like, he couldn't get a hold of you, so he left a message with me. I hope that's okay.
Yeah. So, well, he wasn't comfortable talking to you right away, and he kind of wanted some advice. And
so, we didn't touch on it earlier when it happened, but Bashir has the line where he's like, does my uniform look brighter to you? Which apparently was the writer's not so subtle way to draw attention to the new costumes, in case you hadn't noticed.
It's like, hey, look at these uniforms. We spent a lot of money on them.
But also, if you look at this episode, and apparently part of the next episode, Avery Brooks, his outfit does not fit him correctly, and the comm badge is like positioned up in the gray part of the tunic instead of the black. And so it takes like an episode and a half before they get him a uniform that fits, apparently.
I was thinking he looked a little awkward for some reason, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it.
And I also like to note here that since Deep Space Nine doesn't need them anymore, but Voyager does, they sent all of the Deep Space Nine uniforms over to the Voyager to use.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
So during his checkup, Sisko apparently has another vision. He sees Bahala rebuilt, and a swarm of locusts flies by and off to Cardassia. Well, that doesn't sound so bad, says Kira.
Yeah, Kira's like, yeah, the locusts can go eat Cardassia.
Yeah.
That'll be great.
Sounds great. I mean, I don't see what's wrong with this.
Party time. So there's a great thing about the locusts in here. They're not just like in here as a random like biblical metaphor. Apparently, so Renee Ashvaria says that they had this idea for an episode that never made it past the script stage, where a massive swarm of space locusts is heading for Bajor.
Oh, wow.
The Bajoran people refuse to do anything about it because there's a prophecy that has foretold that the locusts must destroy everything if Bajor is to survive. And the episode is about Sisko having to use his status as the emissary to convince the Bajorans to defend themselves. And so, since they never made that episode, and this was an emissary-heavy episode, they went ahead and like used the locusts in here as a reference to that.
All right. Space locusts. All
yeah,
right.
don't you wish that we'd seen that episode about the space locusts?
I mean, it sounds fun. But Bashir has some bad news. The captain's basal ganglia have started to depolarize.
Oh no.
We gotta operate and get those things repolarized. But that will probably stop the visions. No dice, says Sisko. Well, that could kill you, says Bashir. But the captain says his visions are too important.
Yep, much more important. Screw the polarization.
Right. Or, yeah, they can be depolarized or something. I don't know. Naturally, Jake and Cassidy are not very happy about this decision and plead with him to see clearly. Sisko gives them some weird speech about the universe being a baby or something. But they're just like, what the hell are you talking about? You need medical care.
Yeah, seriously.
So that speech did not do anything to quell our concerns.
So, speaking of Cassidy, I missed it when she first came back on the scene, but there's a note that she got 6 months in jail for, being a Maquis spy or collaborator or whatever.
Smuggling to the Maquis or whatever.
But also, Garrick got 6 months in jail in a later episode, but he came back from jail first, which means that either she spent longer than 6 months in jail or he spent less than 6 months in jail.
Maybe he had better behavior or something.
Yeah, like the simplest explanation is, Garrett got out for good behavior or overcrowding or something like that. But I prefer to think that like Cassidy like shanked someone in prison or something and got like months added onto her sentence.
Right. Then Kai Wynn shows up to take Ben away to help him on his vision quest.
I do love Jake being like, wait, you trust her? Is this not a sign that you're not thinking clearly?
It's like, up in Ops, the staff debate the situation. Dax and O'Brien are skeptical, but Kira and Worf are on the side of faith. Note the rare appearance of the Chief. Like, is Colomini filming a movie or something?
I know, it seems like he must be, right? Given that, like, the last 2 or 3 episodes he hasn't been in.
Like, he was in one scene last episode, and I don't think he was in the episode before that at all.
He's busy. He's a busy guy,
But the Kai takes Sisko to look at an orb, because maybe looking at an orb will do something.
Well, it's the Orb of Prophecy, and he's having prophecies?
I mean, it's worth a shot.
Why not, really?
Sisko's headaches are getting bad, and Wynn is like, maybe this isn't a good time to look at the orb. It's kind of an intense experience. But Sisko is determined.
Sisko's like, oh no, I'm looking at this orb.
I'm going to look at that orb, don't you worry. He opens the orb, and we cut to the wardroom, where everybody is gathered and ready to get the signing on. Everybody's concerned at Sisko's absence, less so about Shakar's absence.
Yeah, that was my first thought on seeing the shot of all the people at the table. Was like, shouldn't the first minister be here? Did he get fired or something? And then there is a note on the episode from a Ronald D. Moore AOL chat in 1997, where he says, First Minister Shakar was supposed to be at the signing ceremony, but the writers ultimately decided it would have cost too much to hire Shakar's actor, Duncan Rhaegar, for what would have been a very minor appearance.
They couldn't even say, like, Minister Shakar is down on the planet doing blah, 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 or whatever.
Or it's like, oh man, we waited so long for Sisko, Shakar had to leave. Or just show the back of his head and be like, oh yeah, there's First Minister Shakar over there.
That would be great. It's just like obvious like body double.
Yeah.
And it's like the camera is always carefully cutting around him. And then they keep like addressing him and like
Kira talks about how he's there because they're still going out, right?
Yeah, theoretically. As far as I know, I don't know. I mean, this has not been addressed in a long time, but they decide to go through with the ceremony until Sisko barges in and declares that it's too soon, and if Bajor joins the Federation, it will be destroyed by locusts. You know, those space locusts.
Yeah.
Then he collapses. Everybody gathers in the infirmary and demands that Bashir do the surgery now, but Bashir is like, but he specifically told me he didn't want the surgery, so... But then everyone starts looking really suspiciously at Bashir and is like, what ethics?
Yeah.
Who are you?
When do you get medical ethics, Bashir?
And Bashir's like, oh, I mean, unless Jake says it's okay. So, what's going on with you, Bashir? You never seem to be able to dispense medical advice without a pad reading off of a pad. You suddenly care about consent when doing surgeries.
He's still talking to there's still no HIPAA going on. He's still just telling everybody everything about the...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, there's no patient privacy in the future. But so anyway, Jake is like, yeah, do the surgery. The old man version of me from The Visitor probably would not forgive me if I let him die now.
It's true.
So Bashir sends everybody out so he can study up on the surgery real fast. And as they wait to hear the results of the surgery, Kai Wynn expresses to Kira her opinion that they should not have done the surgery and trusted the prophets. But Kira says, well, maybe doing the surgery is trusting the prophets. Huh? Think about that.
Honestly, I don't know. Like, at this point, he's clearly not going to get any more out of it. Like, he's dying now and unconscious. So what do you think is going to happen if you don't do it? Like, you're not going to get any more vision info out of him.
Maybe she thinks he's going to, like, snap out of it and be okay. Which Bashir seems to think is a possibility, that he will just recover on his own. But
I did not get the impression that Bashir thought that was going to be a thing that could happen. Not at this point.
Maybe. But Wynn is like, yeah, I don't know. This whole thing has got me confused. Like, my whole worldview is shook at this point.
I mean, she did, like, come around on him hard in this episode, which, as Kira said, that takes some guts to have so clearly and blatantly done things that were immoral and illegal to, like, sabotage this, and then to be like, oh, never mind, the prophets totally are on his side. All right. I guess I've been wrong.
It's like either he's the emissary or my whole religion is wrong. So
there's a note about this episode. The character of Wynn is rendered far more complex than we've seen her up to this point. A layer of ambiguity is added to her villainous role, as her usually unsympathetic character exhibits some admirable qualities when she lectures Kira on courage and faith.
Yeah. Unlike the time when we were supposed to see, like, new layers of ambiguity with Gul Dukat in that one episode.
Well, I do like the note actually says, as we've seen happen with Dukat. I skipped that part because...
Yeah. I feel like this is a little bit better of an example of that happening.
And Ira Stephen Bear says, we like to allow the audience to hate people like Wynn and then give her a speech that's basically just for Kira and the audience that contradicts their expectations. Yeah. It's a perverse thing to do. That's why Ira Stephen Bear likes it.
He likes messing with the audience. Got it.
Yep.
But Sisko wakes up from the surgery and is distraught to have lost the visions right when he was about to understand it all. Although it seems like he was just about to understand it all the whole episode. So,
well, when he died, I'm sure he would have understood everything. So.
Then he would have been no use to anybody. Admiral Mustache tries to convince Sisko to backpedal and say the vision was wrong, but Sisko can't do that. And the Admiral can't fire him because the whole planet believes he's the emissary.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, if you tried to move him, there would be an issue. I mean, I guess you could just drum him out of Starfleet, and then he would become like the leader of Bajor or something.
Yeah.
He's like, I got another job just lined up.
It's a little bit of an awkward situation to be in as Sisko's boss.
Yeah, that it's actually they who is it? Ronald D. Moore is talking about in the notes that this is a classic example of what not to do. The Starfleet captain who encounters the primitive culture and declares himself a god.
Right.
This has to be something they teach Starfleet Academy students in the first year. So certainly, when they start hearing that somewhere out on the frontier, Ben Sisko is now being revered as a spokesperson for the prophets, it probably would raise a lot of eyebrows back at headquarters.
Yeah, it's kind of turning into like an Apocalypse Now type situation or something. Where it's like he's just gone totally rogue and like all the natives are supporting him.
Yep.
Also, compare with that one episode of Next Gen when those proto-Vulcan people were trying to worship Picard as a god, and he was like, no, stop doing that.
Yeah. He did everything in his power, including super violating the Prime Directive even more by taking some up to his ship and like showing them the planet. To be like, see, I'm not a god.
Yep. Which, was the right thing to do in that situation.
Yeah, one of the notes in here is also, it's like, in the first episode, Picard tells Sisko, do everything short of violating the Prime Directive to get these guys to join the Federation. And then he seems to like hardcore violate the Prime Directive to get them to not join the Federation in this episode.
Yep, he's on his own path now. Nobody can tell him.
Well, yeah, and actually, there's another thing in here that's like, this is the landmark episode showing that Sisko has two missions. His Starfleet one to bring Bajor into the Federation, and the path laid out for him by the prophets. And this is where the latter really starts interfering with the former.
Yes, I'd say so. But Sisko does express his belief that Bajor will join the Federation one day. Then Sisko goes home, where Jake and Cassidy have made him some jambalaya. Yum.
Probably not as good as his. So he has to like pretend that it's super good and like smile and
I wonder if
nod.
they threw some of that like leftover linkta into the jambalaya.
Yeah, I'd put some of that in there, sure.
With the three of them together, Ben seems to realize that even though he's lost his visions, his family is probably more important. The end.
Maybe. There's a note in here that like there's this touching final scene where like Ben, Jake, and Cassidy are like starting to become a family, but because of Penny Johnson's shooting schedule on the Larry Sanders Show, we will not see Cassidy again until season 6.
Nice.
So I guess spoiler for Cassidy presence.
Oh yeah, maybe we'll see her, maybe we won't. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. Okay, we got there's some more interesting notes. Ronald D. Moore says that this was an interesting episode for television. You're not going to find many shows where the lead character is having visions from an alien god and believing them. I just thought that was a remarkable piece of television. Yeah,
I mean, I guess it is kind of like because that's the plot of the show,
right?
Like, but sure.
So, the Bajoran religion clearly is a like recurring background theme throughout Deep Space Nine.
Sure.
But this is one of a small number of episodes that focuses almost exclusively on it, with earlier ones being Season 4's Accession, for example. Apparently, as a rule, the Bajoran religion-focused episodes were not popular with either the fans or the studio.
Right.
And so
I think we've talked about this before, where it's like the studio was just constantly telling them, like, stop doing that.
It was in that Season 4 episode Accession. That was in the notes there. But so when they decided, let's go make another Bajoran religion episode with this one, they were kind of shocked because the fans really liked it. This is a very popular episode with fans. Or at least was at the time.
Sure.
And our Stephen Bear is like, I was surprised by the response it generated. The fans really seem to take to this, to the spirituality, the faith. This is the episode that made me realize that what we'd created in terms of the Bajoran faith and the emissary. I knew it was going to become a more and more important part of the show, and that the audience was going to love it.
Nice.
I think that's kind of a big leap from them liking one episode about it when they didn't like the other ones, but whatever.
This is Ira Stephen Bear logic.
Ira Stephen Bear logic that I came up with it, so it must be great.
I can't believe it wasn't in the New York Times that we did this episode.
Speaking of Ira Stephen Bear logic, so First Contact, the movie has just come out. So presumably what we see in First Contact happens before what we see here.
Well, if that's how timelines work, I don't know.
Right, yeah. So apparently at the time, some fans felt that it was unusual that there was no acknowledgement in this episode of Star Trek First Contact, such as maybe the Defiant is getting repairs done after the battle with the Borg or whatever. This was not an oversight, but a conscious decision. Ira Stephen Bear was not happy with how the Defiant was used in the film, saying, I didn't see the point in bringing it in just to kick the crap out of it. So he didn't see any reason to draw attention to the film in this episode.
Sure. I mean, we can just assume that, they're working on fixing it. Worf has had this crazy experience.
Yeah, Worf should probably be slightly traumatized, but he's fine. He's cutting jokes about root beer and stuff. It's all good.
He's like, and then I said, assimilate this. And I blew the thing up, and it was awesome.
Okay, let me see.
I killed a Borg with a MacLeod. How many Klingons can say that?
Probably not many, to be fair. You don't survive confrontation with the Borg that often. Okay, one last note is that Hans Beimler is talking about the Kai also. And he says the Kai is a really important character on the show. She's not just one note. She's complicated, multifaceted. That's because one of the things that Ira always emphasized with us was to make characters three-dimensional.
Yeah.
I don't feel like that your showrunner should have to be like, make sure the characters aren't two-dimensional. Like, come on.
I just want this guy just really be twirling that mustache. Like, the good thing about the Kai, as opposed to Dukat, is although she's done some bad things, like trying to have Bareil assassinated and stuff like that, it's like I don't think she's ever done anything that makes her totally irredeemable. So it's a little bit easier to buy her as like, more of a complex layered person.
Yeah. As
opposed to Dukat, where it's just like everything about him, even when he seems to be acting good, you just know, like, there's no way this guy is good or really telling the truth here or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong.
So let's see. Yeah, we've been doing our Dr. Bashir watch just for no particular reason, keeping an eye on him. I don't know. I'm starting to think something might be going on with that guy. Maybe going back as far as, what was it, 2 episodes ago, when, I don't know, he didn't seem to have a great deal of medical knowledge. I'll say that. And I think he might be going through something.
That reminds me. I want to start keeping track here. How many days would you say this episode took? Like in world time?
Is this just a thing we're tracking for no particular reason?
Right. Yes. No particular
reason. So they got the painting.
Yeah.
Let's see. So Sisko stayed up till 3 a.m. that morning.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that was, I guess maybe it could have, and then he had dinner later with Jake.
Yep.
So that's like
at least
the end of day 2.
Yep.
And
then was it tomorrow that day that Cassidy was coming back?
I think it was tomorrow. I think he did say it's tomorrow. So that's day 3.
He finds Bahala the next day. That's day 3.
And then
we cut to, like, everyone knows he's made the discovery.
Right.
And the Admiral is showing up, and they've already, like, they're doing an excavation. So that's at the very least day 4. This is not the same day.
I think it's very likely probably the next day. It could be maybe like later the same day or something, but we'll go ahead and say that's at least one more day. So
okay. And the Kai shows up, and Kira's like, he'll talk to you tomorrow. Was that before or after he discovered where Bahala was? That was before.
Yeah, that's true. That was before. So
okay, so yeah, never mind.
Yeah. And then, so day 4 is the day after he's found Bahala. Everybody's showing up on the station. It feels like that scene with Cassidy and Jake. Wait, was there a scene with Cassidy and Jake after that?
Okay, hold on. So what we're saying is the day after is the day they're doing the excavation and he's down there.
Okay,
he tells the Admiral he's going to come up and talk to him the following morning.
But then he has his headaches and the Admiral orders him to go see Dr. Bashir right away. Right?
No, because the Admiral's like, okay, I'll talk to you tomorrow then. And he leaves him down there. And he tells and that's where Sisko comes in the next morning and he's on his way to meet with the Admiral in sickbay to get his examination.
Okay. So that would be day 5?
That's day 5, yeah.
Okay. And then I guess that's when he gets diagnosed with
depolarization.
Yeah, his basal ganglia have no more poles or something.
Yeah.
And then he has a conversation with Jake and Cassidy, which I took to be like that evening or something.
Sure.
It's hard to track the passage of time.
Yeah, it is.
On the station. And then Kai Wynn takes him away, and he has the orb experience, which goes into the signing of the treaty.
Which I guess could be the same day, theoretically.
Yeah. Well,
we're not told how long he's at the orb.
We'll say that's all the same day.
Okay.
And then he collapses, and they do the surgery, and then he wakes up from the surgery. So I don't know if that all could have happened in the same day.
Does seem like a lot, but I guess it's possible.
Yeah, I don't know. Do we want to be too conservative or too liberal here?
I guess let's be conservative about it and say that we'll call it like 5 to 6 days.
So, 5 to 6 days total. All right.
And this what's this? I'm gonna make notes here. What's this episode is?
Rapture?
Rapture, thank you. I keep wanting to call it Meridian, but that was a very different episode.
Yes, that was, wasn't that the disappearing planet?
Yeah. Okay, we got that sorted.
So we've done that exercise. I guess let's jump into reviews. So, you want to give your thoughts on this episode?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, we're in a very Sisko episode. We haven't gotten these major Sisko episodes that often.
That's true.
And it is nice to see the whole. We're back into the Bajoran mythology. We're back into like kind of the Deep Space Nine specific territory, and we are building into like they have set groundwork for future story, which I always appreciate.
Sure.
Or maybe not. Maybe none of the crazy stuff he predicts will be relevant to the future.
And Sisko being the emissary will never be important again.
No, right. Yeah. I don't know how I feel about Wynn and her turn here, actually. It's just like, oh, maybe she's actually reasonable, I guess. Although she has been like a horrid person up till now. I don't know that I want her on our side, honestly, given what we know she's willing to do for her side. And yeah, Cassidy returning, that's good. You get the emotional content of like Jake having to make this decision, which I also appreciate. It does feel like it comes out of nowhere that Bajor is like, oh, it's time for Bajor to join the Federation. And we can safely do that because at the end of the episode, it's not going to happen after all. So,
yep.
But overall, I think it's a decent episode. It's pretty good. I don't like love it or anything, but I think that it's got a lot of positive things. I don't have that much negative to say about it. It's weird because, you know, it's a 4-sided obelisk. And we have the 2 sides we see in the picture. We have the 3rd side reflected in the water, but then there's the 4th side, which apparently you can't just like use 3 to position the fourth one where it goes in the universe, or try to figure out
who knows how this coordinate system works.
We don't know how the system works. Exactly. So, anyway, he gets it legitimately from like a magical vision, the location, and the whole like pushing everything that pushes the episode forward is prophet magic. It's hard to second guess prophet magic, because it doesn't need an explanation. It doesn't need to make sense. It doesn't need to be justified or supported after the fact or before the fact in any way. It's just magic prophet stuff that happened when he got a shock in the holosuite. Like he didn't go into the wormhole and encounter the prophets like Zek did. He got shocked in the holosuite, and that turned it into magical prophet stuff. But why not?
Right.
Because it's magic, so whatever. It's
well, maybe the image of the obelisk was imbued with prophet magic.
Sure.
And that was contained within the data storage rod that he touched and got into his brain.
But my point is, it's like it's hard to like look at it critically, because you can't critique it. You can't critique the magic, because it's just magic. It magics. The magics, and that's how it's going to magic. And what can you say? So it just feels like this really weird, just out there. Yeah, this crazy thing happened once, and yet at the same time, it's really relevant to the overall story of the show. So I like it, but it's hard to like love it for me for that reason. So I think I'm gonna put it at Lieutenant Commander.
Okay. I mean, I will say, in defense of prophet magic, I respect it a lot more than when the writers are like, okay, how many minutes of technobabble do we have to write before the viewer will accept this?
Yep, they're just like, hey, we don't have to technobabble at all. Let's just put that out of the way. I can definitely see the appeal there.
It's like how they've gotten with time travel episodes, when just someone has to say the word chronotons. It's like, oh no, some chronotons happened, and then that's it. It's like they just brush off their hands. It's like, okay, that's why we're back in time, chronotons. As for the win thing, I'm not like, I think it's interesting. I'm not like, super focused on it. I guess my main complaint about the episode is there's something a little cliche about a story of a guy who gets magical visions, but then they're killing him, and then he has to lose them or whatever. But I gotta say, back in the day, I was one of those fans who just did not like the Bajoran spiritual stuff. And I was like, that was my least favorite part of the show. And I was like, oh, we're doing this again. But this time around, I'm getting kind of into it. Like, I'm kind of digging it. So, and like you said, I like having just like a Captain Sisko episode.
Yeah. And
I'm enjoying seeing Captain Sisko on his emissary journey. So, yeah, I think I like it. So I'll go ahead and give it a full commander.
Nice.
However, the title.
Yeah, the title. Look, I've already forgotten it. I've forgotten it every time. Like, right. I've had to look at it several times as we reviewed this, and every single time I need to go back and look at it, I've forgotten it again.
Right.
Because it doesn't mean anything in this episode, as far as I can tell.
Right. What? Okay, so what is the dictionary?
I did that earlier.
What does the Oxford Dictionary say about Rapture?
Yeah, what does Rapture mean? So I'll bring it up again.
Or let's look at Webster's. Let's look at an American dictionary.
Merriam-Webster. Here we go. 1, an expression or manifestation of ecstasy or passion, which I guess
maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, that I don't know that I'd call it ecstasy, but when he had that like moment of revelation, he was very cheerful about it.
True.
2A is a state or experience of being carried away by overwhelming emotion, which I think that could fit.
Maybe.
B, to be a mystical experience in which the spirit is exalted to a knowledge of divine things.
Oh, okay.
So I think that's the one.
Yeah. Okay, that works. I don't think I've ever used Rapture in that way.
No.
But...
I mean, honestly, most of the time I've used Rapture is like in the like hypothetical Christian sense because of that book series about the Rapture that came out when we were teenagers. The Left Behind books. I read those at the time because they were really big and people were talking about them. I read most of them anyway, and so like in my mind, that's the first books. Yeah, I read like the first 8 or something. But anyway, like in my mind. That's where my mind first goes when you say that word. So that's why I'm just like, what does that have to do with this? Like, okay. But so no, I guess that the word is appropriate.
Like the prophets didn't come back and sweep up all their followers into prophet heaven or whatever.
Yeah. Despite the fact that the word is apparently appropriate if you go 3 definitions deep.
Sure.
I don't. It's not memorable. And I don't connect it with this episode very well. And it's not clever in any way, I don't think.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm starting to have to give it credit for teaching me this new definition.
Yeah, the new definition of Rapture.
The word Rapture.
I was like, does that make it clever that we've used the word with its actual with an actual relevant definition in a way that most people wouldn't be familiar with? Maybe that does. Yeah. Maybe that is like a definition of clever there. That's
maybe. Fair. I don't know. It seems to be really appropriate the more I think about it. So
yeah, I still don't like it, and I can't remember it. So,
I might be coming around on it. We didn't do a nitpick of the week.
Cisco's uniform does not fit correctly.
Minor nitpick, but sure.
I don't know. I guess Colomini again. Like as you pointed out, he was not in this episode very long either.
That's not a nitpick, but it's like...
It's not a nitpick,
what's going on here?
I hadn't realized it until you said it, that I was like, oh yeah, he just has that one moment where he's like, faith, whatever.
So I'm on the anti-faith side.
Yep.
Meanwhile, in the Mirror Universe, I just gotta retire that segment.
I mean, the prophets could be expressing themselves in the Mirror Universe, although we've discussed that like maybe the Pa Wraiths are in control of the wormhole in the Mirror Universe.
Yeah. Who's the emissary in the Mirror Universe?
Well, I don't think that we've even known... We don't even know for sure that they've discovered the wormhole over there. I mean, I think we talked about this the last time we had a wormhole-related episode and we did the Meanwhile in the Mirror Universe segment. But it's like, presumably, they know it exists, at least the people who have visited the regular universe, because the station's right next to it in the regular universe. So they got to know it's there. Maybe they just don't care to use it.
Well, they don't know. There's something they have to do to open the wormhole, isn't there? Like,
I thought you just like flew into it the first time, or I don't know.
I don't remember. So maybe they still haven't figured that out, or maybe the key difference between the Mirror Universe and the Prime Universe is that the wormhole doesn't exist in the Mirror Universe.
Ooh, could be.
Who knows?
The prophets aren't looking out for Bajor.
No, that makes no sense, because then how did Odo get here?
Oh, that's true, too.
So, yeah, I don't know.
I wonder if Mirror Odo also really wanted to find his people. Like, if Bashir had known at that point about them, could he have, like, bribed Odo with that information in the Mirror Universe?
Ooh, yeah. I'm sure he was curious, at the very least. Anyway, so, yeah, we're gonna wrap it up there. So, thank you for joining us today. If you like this episode, might I recommend watching or listening to our review of A Session? And what's the one where the 3 Vipers will... It's called like Prophecy or something.
Yeah, hold on. I'll grab it. It's called Destiny.
Destiny. So yeah, go check out those 2 reviews if you haven't listened to them. Wherever you listen to this. Also, I don't say this very much, but you can go to www.undeclaredbajor.com.
Nice.
And it will take you to the YouTube channel. That has been true for like a year, and I don't think I've ever actually like said it in an episode. But anyway, my name is Fletcher. About to say goodbyes, Data.
See ya.
We look forward to seeing you for our next session, but remember, don't stand between me and the, what's it called? Patimfar.
Nice. Don't stand between me and the hard root beer.